No empire in history has ever survived on debt. Not a single one. And now it's America's turn. September AD 476. Roman Emperor Romulus Augustulus was overthrown. The Roman Empire, which had lasted for 1,229 years, officially ended that day. But the real collapse had started much earlier. In AD 64, the Roman Empire's currency, the silver denarius, was 95% pure silver. By AD 250, that ratio had dropped to just 5%. The empire kept debasing its money to finance its army and bureaucracy. Every new coin contained less silver. Inflation exploded, people starved, the economy collapsed, and eventually, barbarian tribes broke through the borders. This was not a coincidence. This was a pattern, a cycle of collapse. Here is a disturbing truth. Every great empire collapsed by passing through the exact same 7 stages. Rome, the Ottomans, Spain, Britain, the Soviets, all of them. No exceptions. And right now, the United States is in stage 5 of this 7-stage cycle. History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. And the rhyme is very clear right now. In the next 25 minutes, I will show you what this 7-stage collapse pattern is, what happens at each stage, and exactly where America stands today. This is not a prophecy. This is reading history's manual. Are you ready? Because what you're about to see is disturbing. Most people see history as something dusty, something left in the past. But history is not in the past. History is the blueprint of the future. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates and the world's largest hedge fund manager, published his book, The Changing World Order, in 2020. He analyzed 500 years of empire data and discovered this. Every great power goes through the exact same life cycle. Birth, rise, peak, decline, and collapse. But this is only the general framework. What truly matters are the specific events at each stage, and they are almost identical every time. What happens when an empire starts debasing its currency? Inflation. Debt increases, people become poorer, social division deepens, and eventually the system collapses. It happened in Rome, it happened in Spain, it happened in the Ottoman Empire, it happened in Britain, it happened in the Soviet Union, and now it is happening in America. Anyone who understands this pattern can see the future. Because history literally repeats itself. Only the names and technologies change, but the mechanism stays the same. Now I will show you these 7 stages one by one. And at each stage, you will see exactly where America stands today. Stage 1, revolution and a new order. Every great empire begins with a revolution. The old system is destroyed and a new system is built. Behind the system stands a powerful ideology and a strong currency. Rome. In 509 BC, the Republic was established. The old monarchy was overthrown. Rome minted strong silver coins and expanded through military discipline. Britain, 1688, the Glorious Revolution. Absolute monarchy ended. Constitutional monarchy began. In 1694, the Bank of England was founded and the pound was tied to gold. America, 1776, the War of Independence. It broke away from Britain and founded a new republic. The dollar was originally backed by silver and gold. Soviet Union, 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution. The Tsar was overthrown and a communist system was built. The ruble was backed by state control and ideological power. Stage 2, rise and the Golden Age. The 50 to 100 years after the revolution are the empire's golden age. The economy grows, technology advances, the military is strong, and the currency is valuable. Rome, 500 BC to 200 BC. The rise of the Republic. They defeated Carthage and dominated the Mediterranean. The denarius was as valuable as gold. Britain, 1700 to 1850. The Industrial Revolution. They colonized a quarter of the world. The pound became the world's reserve currency. America, 1870 to 1970. They became an industrial giant. They won World War I and World War II. In 1944, Bretton Woods made the dollar the global reserve currency. Soviet Union, 1922 to 1960. Rapid industrialization. They led the space race. They became a nuclear superpower. At this stage, everyone believes the empire will last forever. But history has never seen this happen, because after the peak, decline is inevitable. Stage 3, overexpansion and money printing. After reaching the peak, empires make the same mistake. Overexpansion. Too many wars, too much bureaucracy, too many promises. And to finance all of this, they start debasing their currency. Rome, AD 200 to 300. The empire was too large. Defending the borders was too expensive. The silver content of the denarius was constantly reduced. By AD 250, only 5% silver remained. Inflation reached 1,000%. Spain, 1500 to 1650. Tons of gold and silver flowed from the New World, but it was all spent on wars. Spain went bankrupt despite the gold inflow. Inflation destroyed the economy. Britain, 1914 to 1971. After World War I, they suspended the gold standard. In 1931, they abandoned it completely. After 1945, the pound was constantly devalued. America, 1971 to today. Nixon ended the gold standard in 1971. Since then, the dollar has been pure fiat money. The Federal Reserve has printed $8 trillion since 2008, another $5 trillion in 2020. The M2 money supply was $1 trillion 50 years ago. Today, it is $21 trillion. Soviet Union, 1960 to 1985. Cold War militarization and the Afghanistan war drained the economy. The ruble lost value. The black market currency was more valuable than the ruble. Stage 4, debt explosion. When money printing begins, borrowing explodes. Because when money becomes cheap, borrowing becomes attractive. But this debt does not go into productive investments. It goes into consumption and wars. Rome. By AD 300, the empire could no longer collect taxes because people were starving. The army and bureaucracy were financed by debt. They printed money but created no real value. Britain. In 1918, war debt reached 140% of GDP. In 1945, it reached 250%. Britain turned from an imperial power into a debt-ridden island. America. In 1980, national debt was $1 trillion. Today, it is $36 trillion, 130% of GDP. And it keeps growing. Federal interest payments reached $1 trillion in 2024, more than the defense budget. Soviet Union. In the 1980s, foreign debt and domestic inflation spiraled out of control. Shelves were empty. People waited in lines while the state continued military spending. At this stage, a turning point occurs. Debt grows faster than production. The math of the system breaks, and return becomes impossible. Stage 5, wealth gap and chaos. This is the most critical stage, because as money loses value and debt explodes, wealth inequality turns into a chasm. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The middle class is erased, society splits. Rome, AD 300 to 400. Senators and landowners accumulated massive wealth while people starved. Social conflicts increased, revolts erupted. People stopped feeling proud to be Roman citizens. Britain, 1920 to 1960. Wealth concentrated in imperial elites while the working class grew poorer. Strikes, unrest, and finally the collapse of the empire. America, 1980 to today. In 1980, the top 1% owned 23% of national wealth. Today, they own 32%. The richest 400 Americans own more than the bottom 50% combined. Middle-class purchasing power has been stagnant for 40 years. Buying a house in 1980 required 3 years of salary. Today, it requires 8 years. Social division turns into political polarization. Rome, populists versus senators. Julius Caesar used popular support to stage a coup. America. In 2024, political polarization is at its highest level since the 1960s. According to Pew Research, the gap between Democrats and Republicans has never been wider. At this stage, people lose trust in the system. Rome, panem et circenses, bread and circuses, gladiator games to distract the people. America, social media, Netflix, constant entertainment, distracting people from what truly matters, and the most critical point. At this stage, empires face a choice. Either they reform and fix the system, or they continue toward collapse. History shows us something clear. No empire has ever succeeded in reform, because reforms go against elite interests, and elites control power. America is exactly at this stage. Stage 5, and all indicators point not toward reform, but toward collapse. Stage 6, the crisis moment, the everything bubble bursts. At this stage, the math no longer works. Debt becomes too large to pay. Money becomes so worthless that inflation spirals out of control. Asset bubbles are ready to burst, and one triggering event collapses everything. Rome, AD 406-410. Visigoth King Alaric besieged Rome. The empire could no longer make its payments. Army morale collapsed. In 410, Rome was looted for the first time in 1,000 years. Britain, 1939-1945. World War II destroyed the British economy. After the war, Britain was bankrupt. In 1947, India gained independence. Between 1950 and 1970, all colonies were lost. The pound lost its reserve currency status. Soviet Union, 1989-1991. The fall of the Berlin Wall. Eastern European satellites gained independence. The economy completely collapsed. In 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolved. A 70-year superpower disappeared in 2 years. What could be the trigger for America? Possible scenarios. The dollar loses its reserve currency status, BRICS alternative. The bond market collapses. Interest payments become impossible. The asset bubble bursts. Stocks, crypto, real estate crash together. Geopolitical crisis. China, Taiwan, Middle East, Ukraine escalate. Ray Dalio's analysis. Within 10 to 20 years, the dollar will lose its reserve status. This is inevitable because the debt is unsustainable. Stage 7. Reset and a new order. After every collapse, a reset comes. The old system is completely destroyed and a new order is built. This reset can happen in 3 ways. Hyperinflation. Money becomes worthless, debts are erased, savings evaporate. Weimar Germany 1923, Zimbabwe 2008, Venezuela 2016. Deflationary collapse, asset prices crash, debts cannot be paid, banks fail. The Great Depression of 1929, the 2008 financial crisis, war and fragmentation, society breaks apart, civil war or external war begins, the fragmentation of Rome, the collapse of the Soviet Union, possible reset for America. 2026, 2030, the everything bubble bursts. Stocks, bonds, and real estate crash together. The Federal Reserve keeps printing money, but inflation rises to 15-20%. 2030 to 2035, the dollar loses reserve status. BRICS countries create a gold-backed currency. Global trade moves away from the dollar. 2035 to 2040, America either reforms, debt jubilee, CBDC, new constitution, or fragments, politically splits in 2. History teaches us this. Every reset creates a new hegemony. Britain collapsed, America rose. If America collapses, who rises? China, India, or a multipolar world? Now let's see this 7-stage pattern with a real example. The British Empire. Stage 1, 1688 to 1750. Revolution. After the Glorious Revolution, constitutional monarchy. Bank of England founded. Pound on gold standard. Stage 2, 1750, 1870. Golden Age Industrial Revolution. World's strongest navy. Empire where the sun never sets. Pound becomes global reserve currency. Stage 3, 1870, 1914. Overexpansion. Colonies too large, too expensive to defend. Rise of Germany and the US increases competition. Military spending explodes. Stage 4, 1914, 1945. Debt explosion cost of World War I, $44 billion. $1 trillion today. Debt reaches 140% of GDP. Gold standard suspended. After World War II, debt jumps to 250%. Stage 5, 1945, 1960. Social division, post-war Britain bankrupt. Dependent on Marshall aid. Colonies demand independence. Unemployment and hardship at home. Stage 6, 1960, 1980. Collapse India becomes independent in 1947. 1956, Suez Crisis proves Britain is no longer a superpower. 1967, pound devaluation. 1976, IMF bailout. Stage 7, 1980, 1992. Reset dollar becomes reserve currency. Britain turns into a mid-sized European country. Former colonies become Commonwealth, but real power is gone. Today, the pound represents only 5% of global reserves. In 1920, it was 60%. Britain is still an important economy, but no longer a hegemon. The US dollar is now following the same path. In 1944, at Bretton Woods, it was 100% of reserves. Today, it is 58%. In 20 years, it could fall to the 30s. Second example, the Soviet Union. It lasted 70 years and then collapsed in 2. Stage 1, 1917 to 1922. Revolution, Bolshevik Revolution. Communist system, Tsar overthrown. New ideology, dictatorship of the working class. Stage 2, 1922, 1960. Rise rapid industrialization. Defeated Nazi Germany in the 1940s. Nuclear weapons in the 1950s. Sputnik launched in 1957. Led the space race. Stage 3, 1960, 1975. Overexpansion, Cuba, Vietnam, Afghanistan. The Cold War everywhere. Military and intelligence budgets exploded. Stage 4, 1975, 1985. Debt and stagnation, oil prices collapsed in 1980. 80% of Soviet income was oil. Economy stalled, no consumer goods. Black market more valuable than ruble. Afghanistan war drained resources. Stage 5, 1985, 1989. Gorbachev and reform attempt, glasnost, and perestroika. But too late. System was so rotten that reforms accelerated collapse. Stage 6, 1989, 1991. Rapid collapse, Berlin Wall fell. Eastern Europe gained independence. August 1991 coup failed. December 1991, Soviet Union officially dissolved. 15 republics became independent. Stage 7, 1992-2000, reset Russian Federation formed. Free market transition, shock therapy. 1998, financial crisis, hyperinflation. Average citizens lost wealth. Oligarchs looted state assets. Result, from superpower to third world economy in 10 years. 1990, 1 USD Zomarm 0.6 ruble. 1998, 1 USD served 24 rubles. People lost their savings. Lesson? Ideology cannot save an economy. Math always wins. Now, the critical question: when will America collapse? History does not give exact dates, but it shows stages. Here is a possible timeline. 2024-2026, end of stage 5, polarization peaks. 2024 elections extremely polarized. Debt reaches $40 trillion. Interest payments, $1.5 trillion per year, 30% of revenue. Asset bubbles at record highs. S&P 6,000 or plus, crypto 100K plus, 2026, 2028. Beginning of stage 6, first cracks. Possible triggers: China invades Taiwan, semiconductor crisis, petrodollar system collapses, Saudi switches to yuan, bond market revolt. No one wants US bonds. Asset prices fall 30 to 50%. Banks demand bailouts, Fed prints more money. Inflation 10 to 15%, 2028, 2032. Stage 6, collapse accelerates. Dollar share of reserves falls to 40% from 58. BRICS launch gold commodity-backed currency. US bond yields rise to 8 to 10%. Debt becomes unpayable. Option 1, hyperinflation. Option 2, deflation. Defaults in banking crisis. 2032, 2035. Start of stage 7, reset decision. Government faces hard choices. Debt jubilee mandatory CBDC capital controls partial return to gold standard. Possible political split 2035-2040. Stage 7, new order. Either America is reborn through strong reforms, or it loses power in a multipolar world. China, India, BRICS rise, global trade shifts to new currencies. This is not a prophecy. This is a pattern. Rome lasted 500 years, then declined for 200. Britain lasted 200 years, lost hegemony in 50. Soviets lasted 70 years, collapsed in 2. America has been hegemon for 80 years. Pattern suggests loss of hegemony by 2040. 7-stage collapse pattern. From Rome to Soviets, every empire followed it. And now America is in stage 5. Is this inevitable? History teaches us you can fight math, but you cannot beat patterns. Because patterns come from human nature. Power corrupts, wealth concentrates. Elites refuse reform because it weakens their power. By the time people wake up, it is too late, and the system collapses. But there is one difference. You know this pattern. Romans did not. You do? Knowledge is power. If you understand the pattern, you can protect yourself. Move into physical assets: gold, silver, farmland. Use debt wisely. Let inflation work for you. Geographic diversification, skill investment, engineering, medicine, agriculture. Will America collapse? History says yes. Math says yes. Pattern says yes. But when and how is uncertain. All we know is we are in stage 5. In the next video, I will show you something even darker. BlackRock, the $10 trillion empire that owns the world. When collapse comes, who wins? BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. These 3 giants own 90% of the world's stocks, and they have a plan. Subscribe to Dark Money Historian. Write in the comments, do you think America can escape this pattern? Or is collapse inevitable? How are you preparing for 2026? Because the answers are not hidden in the future. They are written in the past, and history is rhyming right now.